Non-Monogamy Help is a podcast where your questions about open, non-monogamous or polyamorous relationships are answered. Our host, Lola Phoenix, will consult a licensed therapist with over a decade of experience to address your problems. Names and locations have been changed or censored to keep your questions anonymous. You're listening to Non-Monogamy Help, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 174 of the Non-Monogamy Help podcast. I'm Lola Phoenix. Please send your questions to ask@nonmonogamyhelp.com and they'll either be in the podcast or the column anonymously. You're more than welcome to identify which one you'd prefer. You can read all of the columns and listen to all the podcasts at nonmonogamy.help. Sign up to the emails that I send out on Wednesdays. We get early access to stuff by going to nonmonogamyhelp.com/email. Follow the column on Instagram at nonmonogamyhelp and TikTok at nonmonohelp. And if you join the podcast shoutout support tier, then I will, with your permission, read your name at the end of the podcast. Before we get to this week's question, let's talk about the discussion question, which I am using an Otter Being Polyamory conversation card. If this is the first time you're hearing this, every week before I read the letter, I put forth a discussion question that you can use to get to know your friends, metamors, anyone else that you want to get to know better. They're also polyamory themed, so maybe it's not that useful for your friends, whatever. This week's discussion question, like I said, is an Otter Being Polyamory conversation card question. These are cards about polyamory. If you want to get them, you can go to nonmonogamyhelp.com/cards and you get 10% off using the non-mono help code at checkout. So let's see what it says this week. How do you feel about having children with your partners? What about your partners having children with other partners? How do I feel about having children? It's gonna be a no from me, dog. Absolutely not. Not interested in any sense of the word. The idea of something growing in my body makes me feel sick. And the idea of shoving something out of one of my holes that sounds wrong. Anyway, I don't want to do that. So no. Also, I feel like I've had such an experience of already being a parent in a way that I'm done. I've contributed my lot to the parent sphere already, and I don't have much of a desire to do it. I will gladly be a friendly auntie. I will gladly be a temporary babysitter, potentially. I did take baby and child first aid. I did want to have children for a long time. No longer want that. But I'm not completely saying no to being somewhat involved in a child's life. I'm not against that. But me couldn't be me. No, not me. In the words of Ludacris, I think. That's going to be a no for me, dog, in the words of Randy. Anyway, that's the question. How do you feel about having children with your partners? What about your partners having children with other partners? I don't care about that. Do whatever you want. Just make sure we'll have a talk about time and stuff like that. I absolutely do believe 110% that if you have a child, you are in a hierarchical relationship because that child should be at the top of your hierarchy. If you are a parent, that child should be the most important person in your entire life and more important than any other partner. I very much believe that. So if I have partners that have children, if I felt like my relationship was harming or standing in the way of them being a decent parent, obviously that's not my fault, but I would probably say no way, Jose, to that. So yeah, anyway, I just went on. I'm going to shut up. How do you feel about having children with your partners? What about your partners having children with others? Bleh. Let's get to this week's question. I have a question. Is it possible to be KTP or kitchen table polyamory with some partners and parallel with others? As a little bit of background, me and my wife practice kitchen table polyamory with my girlfriend and her local boyfriend. My wife has a second boyfriend that I have a lot of issues with, mainly in the way he speaks about me to my wife and how he treats her. I love my kitchen table polyamory setup with my partner, wife, and her boyfriend, but her other partner makes me feel unsafe. Is it possible to be kitchen table and also parallel? Thank you so much for all you do. Your book and your podcast have helped me a lot with my polyam journey. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say. Before we get to this week's answer, I want to quickly remind you of this episode's sponsor, BetterHelp. Quite often in a lot of my columns and podcasts, I encourage people to seek a polyamory-friendly therapist. And for a lot of people, this is not possible in their local area because maybe they live deep in the Bible Belt and you ain't finding a therapist who knows anything about polyamory. And no, you're not. And, maybe it's out of their budget. BetterHelp allows you to find therapists online that you can send messages to any time of the day. They also offer some financial aid and some insurance thingies I don't know much about that, but check it out. You can get 10% off your first month using the promo code non-monogamy help at checkout or going to betterhelp.com/non-monogamy help. Let's get to this week's answer. To answer your question, yes, I think so. I think it's possible for you to be kitchen table polyam and also have parallel relationships. But it all depends on what you agreed with your wife and your girlfriend and her boyfriend. And was there a discussion of any additional people joining that kitchen table? Was there an assumption that would happen regardless? Like if your girlfriend's boyfriend got another girlfriend, is that girlfriend automatically included? Like, has there been a discussion about who gets in? I feel like saying the inner circle, but that feels like very Meet the Fockers and kind of a weird thing. Like, that doesn't feel very positive, but like, you see what I'm saying? Like, have you had that discussion of who gets included and who doesn't get included and what that means? I don't know if you've seen this second boyfriend like speaks about, you said you don't like the way he speaks about you to your wife and how he treats her. Oh, this is so hard, because you can't be like, this guy's an ass, man. Like, why are you dating him? He's an ass. And I'm sure that you're probably not the only one who thinks that way. And yeah, but it's, sometimes there's an amazing book that I recommend to everyone to read for regardless of whether you're monogamous or polyamorous called Why Does He Do That by Lindy Bancroft. I definitely recommend you read that. It's about kind of like abuse patterns and like how to support someone in an abusive situation. I'm not saying that the second boyfriend is abusive, but I'm just saying, like, based off of what I know, as much as we all in those situations want to be like, oh my God, dump the motherfucker already, sometimes that doesn't really help. But it's like totally fine. Like, I think absent of like how intensely bad this second boyfriend seems based off of the information that you've given me. And I don't know if if your wife is telling you the things that her second boyfriend has told you, like, how did you figure out like how he speaks about you to your wife? Were you physically there to witness it, or did your wife tell you? And if your wife told you, why did your wife tell you? What was the point and utility of that? I just think like, yeah, it's possible. But I think that you shouldn't be the one unilaterally deciding this. And unfortunately, the thing with kitchen table is like, I guess it depends on what the agreements were. Like, kitchen table can exist in all forms and ways. I see the most egalitarian or democratic way of doing that as you all kind of vote on who gets to be included, because theoretically, like, you're, like I said, what if your girlfriend's local boyfriend has another girlfriend and you all don't get along with that person? What if, your girlfriend finds another boyfriend and you don't get along with that boyfriend? Like, it's not that he's done anything bad, but you just don't vibe. Like, it's possible. This is the problem that I kind of have with kitchen table polyamory, is that sometimes people don't get along. And it's not because anyone did anything wrong. Like, clearly, it doesn't seem like the second boyfriend is like a good person. I mean, I'm going off of like what you're telling me, so you haven't given specific examples, so I don't know if it's the case or not. But either way, like, sometimes people just don't gel. They just don't gel. And it's kind of like living in a roommate situation, right? Like, obviously, you don't need to be best friends with your roommate, but you need to like get along. And it's kind of shitty to live in a house where you don't get along with all the people. Like, it's strained. It's not the funnest situation. So like, I find it hard to imagine kitchen table scenarios where the bigger it grows, the more likely it is that two people are not going to gel well. And I just don't know, like, have you discussed how that's managed? Like, what happens if, like, it just kind of seems like this has grown organically, which is fine. Like, that's kind of, in a way, that's kind of the best way for these things to happen, right? Like, it's like, okay, we get along, you come along, we get along, you come along. It's kind of like a nice way for things to grow rather than forcing it, rather than being like, we're a kitchen table now and all of these people must live together and we must all get along. Like, that's no fun. But what I would do is that if boyfriend 2 is an ass, chances are you're not the only one that thinks that. Chances are even if your girlfriend isn't dating your wife, and even if your girlfriend's boyfriend isn't dating your wife, nobody wants to be around someone who's an ass. And chances are, like, generally people who are assholes, like, not always, generally people who are assholes are not just assholes to one person. Like, they kind kind of spread their assholery around to multiple people. So if he's an asshole to you, he's an asshole to your wife, it's probably going to also be an asshole to your girlfriend and to her local boyfriend. And as much as you want to like protect and save everybody from having to be exposed to this asshole, I think, you know what? Have a sit down with all of you. Say, hey, wife's got a second boyfriend. We don't particularly get along very well, but this is a democracy. If it's a democracy, I'm pretty sure this isn't a polygamous setup where you are the head king and you get to decide who's coming and going. But this is a democracy. How do we want to go forward with this? Let's all discuss it. What do you think about second boyfriend? Is this someone, and where do we go forward? If your girlfriend gets another boyfriend, is out, like have a discussion about where this is going, right? Because this is a problem you're going to run into, even if nobody's abusive or nasty or particularly nasty. Like it's just something you'd be like, hey, this situation has reminded me that there might be situations where we just don't gel. What do we do in those? But yeah, is it possible? If your answer is that possibly kitchen table and also parallel, absolutely. There is no rule. We're all making this shit up. Monogamy is made up. Everything's made up, and the points don't matter. Just if you agree on all like that's the most important thing. Everyone should agree as much as possible. Like try to make this a democratic decision. You may have to put up with second boyfriend. It might be that second boyfriend hasn't shown his assholery yet. But I have faith that, and I read that book. Like I said, I think that will also help and understand why, like, you trying to intervene. I'm not saying you are, but like you trying to intervene on the situation won't fix the situation. Like you just got to be there for your wife and like hope that she sees that this dude is an asshole before it's never too late because you're always there. But yeah, like I think have a talk about it, sit down and talk about it. But it is fully possible. Like not everybody has to be automatically included. There's no rule book which says if you have kitchen table, all partners must be included, or it's not really kitchen table. And even if it isn't, you know what? Fuck anyone who decides to dictate to you how your relationship is. Like you don't. So what? If it's not really kitchen table polyamory, who gives a rat's ass? It's not like you're going to be tested and, you're going to lose your kitchen table license. Like that's not going to happen. Who gives a fuck? If it's not something you guys want to do, then don't do it, basically. I give you permission to exist in the way that you would like to exist, basically. So yeah, I hope that helps and good luck. Thank you for listening to episode 174 of the Non-Monogamy Help podcast. If you want to be awesome, you can sign up on the website to support me. There's a free tier, there's a cheaper tier. All of it helps, because people listen to this, and I know that there's lots of demands on your money and all of these ads that are saying if you buy this, then you will be happy forever. And I can't promise that because I'm not a grifter. I'm not going to promise that kind of thing because that's silly. But it would be really, really super helpful if you would consider supporting. You can do that at nonmonogamyhelp.com/subscribe. And if you sign up with the podcast shoutout support tier and you agree and consent to me saying your name at the end of the podcast, I will, such as right now.
Ermi, Mike Kander, Matios Caden, and Claire Nilo.
Thank you so much for being supporters. If for whatever reason you can't give me any money, because I get it, money is, it's a thing. You can subscribe at the free tier by going to nonmonogamyhelp.com/subscribe. Sign up to the early access emails. Like I said, those come out on Wednesdays, and you get coupon codes and fun little stuff too. nonmonogamyhelp.com/email. Also, tell people about the podcast. Share it in your stories, and if you tag me, then I'll reblog you and be like, oh my god, thank you so much. Shiny, little almost sad teary face, whatever that emoticon's called. And if you rate and review the podcast on iTunes and Spotify, do let me know because I get no notifications. But I guess that's kind of good actually because if I got notifications about reviews and then I might become obsessed with oh man, what the review is, But I think that it would be nice to know, especially on iTunes. Excuse me, I burped. That's disgusting. Anyway, that's all for this week. You'll get a new column next Friday and another podcast episode in a fortnight. Thank you so much for listening.
You've been listening to Non-Monogamy Help. The music was done by Chris Albury-Jones at albury-jones.com. Thank you for listening.
Before we get to this week's discussion question, shut up, Lola. Before we get to this week's, I just went on, I'm going to shut up. How do you feel about having children with your partners? What about your partners having children with others?